Just seeing names pop up just repeatedly. Bam, 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 bam.
We can put the StreamYard duck up there. Oh yeah,
You know
that's
what?
right. The red background sucks.
Yeah, it's just so bright.
That's why we put Jurgen up there. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of You'll Never Talk Alone of the 2022 calendar year. Obviously, we wish that this could have been, I don't know, under happier circumstances, considering how the past few weeks have gone. But you know what? Here we are, still battling in the top three of the Premier League with a match in hand over Chelsea. So there's some positives to still discuss as we try to deal with all of the negatives that have gone on in the past couple of weeks. I'm your friend Joseph Craven, joined by Alex Level. Alex, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right. I hope everybody's having a happy new year in spite of all of the terrible things that have been happening to the club and in spite of Cristiano Ronaldo's 47 goals in the past year.
What's your New Year resolution? Did you make any resolutions?
No, I'm going to finish fourth. I'm getting top four just myself.
Wow.
And then I'm going to play in the Champions League by myself. So
Really?
that's what I'm trying to do.
Not going to make any signings, huh? You're a real FSG as an individual. That's what I've always said. When I think of like who's the one person that in my head is FSG, it's you, Alex. It always has been.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I don't remember what all he said in the video. It was stupid.
It was, yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough, I think. Yeah, so as of now, I mean, 20 matches into this season, and and one Carabao Cup match supposed to happen at some point soon. Who knows? I don't remember when it got moved to, if they announced that or not. But 20 matches into the season, 12 victories, only 2 losses, 42 points, but 6 draws, putting a damper on what would typically be a pretty good year all in all. I mean, scoring some goals, scoring some good goals. And I think one of the things that we've kind of talked about before and that still rings true with this team is that this is still a fun team to watch. This Liverpool squad is. And the fact of the matter is also this has not been, even with the frustrations, even with the the moments of pure anxiety that have happened in this season, and especially the more recent weeks. Even with all of that, this has not been a team that has caused near as much like pulling out like the hair, like frustration and anger towards them as it has been in the past. You know, is that a fair assessment? I feel like this has been a team that, by and large, has been, fun to watch, good to watch. Like the issues that pop up are not issues that we look at and we're like, oh, we need a new keeper because our keeper can't do anything. You know what I mean? It's not like it has been in recent years. Yet there still is this weird, lingering melancholy of like, well, the problem is just by the nature of the Premier League right now, being incredible is not good enough. You know, is that a fair assessment of this squad so far this season as we're kind of just over the midway point?
It's absolutely true. I mean, this is form that without a sports washing organization involved in the league would be title form. This is an incredible run of fixtures. Like it's hard to imagine a team continually going undefeated and having the run of results that we have. Like even the teams that have been winning 9 league titles in a row, they're not that flawless,
right?
And it's just incredible what this team's been able to do. Like you mentioned, the team, apart from like the second to third week in December, this team was super fun. We had a run of matches where we scored 3 goals every game. Like we were scoring goals. Yeah. We had such clear evidence of why the people we brought in last summer were brought in. We saw the evolution we were going for. We saw the changes we were making and how that led to us being even better than we were before. Like it was such a different approach to matches. It wasn't the grind out 1-0s. It was just score 2,000 goals on a team and make them feel bad about themselves. And we were doing that. And then a lot of the stuff that we had kind of in the back of our minds that we sort of brought up towards the beginning of the season, saying like, well, I mean, we have a really good team, but you know how every winter everyone gets injured, and you know how we just had a season where everyone got injured, and you know how we just had 2.5 seasons where we played 20 matches a day.
And you know how there's also still a pandemic going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, maybe going into the season with less players than last year when we had an injury crisis is not the best idea.
Right.
And that was kind of pushed to the side a little bit when we could continually play everybody. And we had 1 or 2 niggles here or there, but for the most part, we could play everybody we wanted and played well. But it finally caught up to us, and it's hitting hard, and it's a shame to say, but like I just mentioned, we're playing against a team that's not really playing fair. Just been able to overcome every bit of hardship for the most part, like sporting wise, that other teams have had to face over the past 2-3 seasons. I mean, they just get to have what they want. They get to be a 3rd, 4th year manager mode team on FIFA and have all those players, and that means that being as good as we are and being the best, like, fair team that you could possibly be doesn't get to work anymore because there's someone that's kind of being unfair in the league. So overall, yeah, fun, but just kind of sucks that those drop points already mean the league is gone.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. Like, you go back through recent history, and even on a recent level, I mean, it's like, yeah, last year, 2nd place had 21 wins. 3rd place, which was us, had 20 wins. Also, I kind of forgot United was in 2nd place last year.
Yeah, that's just proof of how weird and how bad everything was last year.
It was such a bad season. None of that seems real at all. But anyway, 20 wins for us in 3rd place, 19 wins for Chelsea in 4th place. Leicester actually had 20 wins, but had a lot of losses because they hated drawing, apparently. And so we're sitting here at this point in which we are just, a little bit past the halfway mark of the season. Every team having played around 20 matches, unless you're Tottenham and you still have half your season to go.
Yeah.
Actually, Burnley's played less matches somehow. Burnley's only played 17 matches. Very odd.
But for the betterment of all of us to not have to watch them play.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? But you compare like this to last year, and last year through 38 matches, the league champions had 27 victories. So far this season, through 21 matches, the league champions already have 17 victories. The league or I already declared them champions, but the league leaders this season already have as many wins on the year that 10th place Everton had out of all of last season. They are only 2 victories short of 4th place Chelsea from last season. They are only 3 victories short of 3rd place us from last season. It's just insane. Let's go back to 2019, 2020. Obviously, we were absolutely ridiculous as a team, winning 32 matches en route to that historic championship, that historic league title, doing so record-breaking pace, doing so faster than anyone else has ever done it before. 32 victories. Man City in 2nd place had 26 wins. Still, that is an insane number.
Yeah.
Comparatively speaking, because 3rd place was United with 18. So just 2 seasons ago, the 3rd place team had, throughout the course of the entire season, only 1 more victory than this Manchester City team has. And that's what is insane. If we go back even, we have the crazy title race in which we and City ended with at least 30 wins. It's insanity.
Yeah.
It is insanity that at this point, what has historically, or at the very least in the last, we'll say, decade to 15 years, kind of been one of the more well-rounded leagues from top to bottom, not nearly as top heavy, insanely top heavy as like La Liga during like the heyday of Barca and Real, the Messi and Ronaldo in their primes, where it was like it's one of those two. You flip a coin at the beginning of the season, no one else matters, and it wasn't quite, we didn't deal with that in the Premier League. We didn't have to deal with that. And right now, in the last few years, that's exactly what we've been dealing with. Because you go to 18-19, you had to have 30 wins just to even sniff, sniff that. City had 32 wins in 17-18. And how crazy was that? This is actually fascinating to look at, the 17-18 season. How many teams actually had 20 plus wins on the year? There were 5 different teams with 20 plus wins. So you start to see even then, like, at the very least, if it was top heavy, it was the top half of the table against the bottom half of the table. 16-17 was the same way. Top 5 teams with at least 20 wins. 14-15 dropped back to a point in which, like, 14-15, Chelsea won with 26 wins, and you go down to 10th place. I'm sorry, you go down to 8th place, and it still is a team with 16 wins. So like the margin, you don't have to go back super far for the margin to be a little bit better. You just go back to 13-14, even when we were, 26 wins and City won the title with 27 wins. You just go back to that. It's just like, it was not all that long ago that it did not take absolute perfection to win the Premier League. And right now it does. And that's insane. Yeah. And it's not healthy for the league. It just can't be. Obviously there's financial benefits, I'm sure, that the league is getting from the just the sheer quantity of worldwide Manchester City fans that are supporting the club, and and the fact that they just got the new TV rights, the new TV deal that I'm sure is a tremendous amount of money for the league and all that. So like the league is definitely benefiting financially from all this, but this is going to send the Premier League into the realm that La Liga was at, not all that long ago, where it's kind of like, unless you pull for one of those two teams, people are going to lose interest. And I just genuinely wonder if the American populace is going to go a little bit more towards the Bundesliga, which has gotten more accessible to watch here in America, which has a lot of Americans playing. It's kind of where a lot of like our national team goes there to play. I know I've got a friend he's a United fan, but he's so sick of United these days. He's starting to get into the Bundesliga, though he doesn't want to. He thinks he doesn't like the way the Bundesliga plays.
Oh, so he's a moron?
So he's an idiot, yeah. Well, I already said he's a United fan. What did you expect? But he's starting, like, when I talked to him about it, he's like, well, I just kind of forget that, like, this American is there right now, and this American's there, and this American's there right now. And of course, Pulisic, came from there and all this. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. It's a good league to watch. It's a lot of fun to watch. And if you're just an American fan, there's a solid chance you see more people that you recognize from being on the national team. So, I mean, yeah, this trend cannot be sustainable for the Premier League, right?
Well, I certainly hope not. And I mean,
I don't know.
Also
and I also feel like you and I are the least qualified people to try to discuss this sort of topic, and that's why we need to jump into it head first and get really outraged about it.
Yeah, that's why people are listening to us about it, because of our very prominent finance degrees and economics degrees. But yeah, well, in addition to just everything, I mean, you go back to 2 years ago when there was the whole people, they were investigating Man City for, like, they already had enough money and they still kind of cheated around it, and the only reason they didn't get punished was because it was 6 years ago and not 5 years ago. Like, that's stupid. What's the whole point of the, in quotes, fair play system if that's going to happen? Like, I get that it's mostly designed to keep clubs spending sustainable, but you kind of got to look at the scale that some of these teams are playing with, and by some of these teams, I just mean City,
Right. Yeah.
and understand like how that works. Like you look at, and there's been all the discussion. I know you just brought up the Bundesliga, but there's a lot of discussion of like, oh, well, the Bundesliga is boring because Bayern win it all the time. Like that's happening here. The only reason that the Premier League has like a recent winner that isn't City is because, like you mentioned, we were pretty much perfect until we won the league and then stopped caring and we're hung over for every other match. So like,
which we're in retrospect, at the time it was kind of annoying to see like maybe the greatest Premier League team ever kind of limp along to finish the year. But in retrospect, I could not care less about that. Like at the time I was a little frustrated, and then like as soon as like we got a little bit of distance, I'm like, why did I ever think that was a big deal?
Yeah, it's totally fine, and it's up to like, it's kind of dumb that most people will forget that because they'll look at the overall score, they won't look at the point to like where the title was won, and then anything before that, and that I'll get to another point later about it. But yeah, it's just like it's almost the same scale of what you're seeing in the Bundesliga and Bayern winning all the time because they have more resources, but it's the same thing in the Premier League, except that the clubs below City have more money than Bayern, and City are still that far ahead financially. Yeah. So that's definitely not healthy. I mean, you look at some of the teams in the Bundesliga, their operating budget is like, I don't know, Grealish's salary for a year. Like that's the equivalent for the whole team and the club. So there's definitely some things the Premier League is going to end up kind of paying for that, allowing that to happen for a bit. And like you said, it might just be people losing interest or people getting fed up or people not liking that there's a team in a league that could spend $100 million on a player just so other teams couldn't have him. And so that we couldn't see his calves anymore on the field. Right. But and I think overall the saddest part about it is that there will be a lot of people, well, one, because they get mad about Liverpool doing anything, as we saw when we submitted a request for postponement. But a lot of people will forget how good the team we have right now is. And it's really unfair to them to be so good and to have this just juggernaut financial takeover kind of team in the way to prevent this team from getting all of the honors it really deserves for being one of the best teams in the history of the club. Yep. One of like the happiest environments, one of the times where the fans could unanimously, I don't know, not really have that much to complain about unless they make it something to complain about. But overall, everything's like in a good spot. But there's just ridiculous factors that keep this team from being able to clean up like a lot of the best teams in history. So that's frustrating, but I know we'll always have the solace knowing that this team is incredible. And
yes,
I mean, hopefully there'll be more trophies to follow that aren't necessarily the Premier League, because I mean, we could win any trophy we want to go after. We're good enough to win them all. And like winning the European Cup and having that be the thing that we can laud over City continually would just be fantastic, because it's what they want so bad.
And they're just terrible at trying to get it.
Yeah.
It's amazing that a team that is that good can legitimately just not be that good at this one specific thing, you know? It's so weird. Yeah, it's I think a lot about like one of the things that frustrates me a lot in modern sports in general is this like dumb concept that if you don't win a championship, then you haven't accomplished anything. Like it's
this,
it's weird to me that has like so permeated the sports, general sports thinking in general, that especially in American sports where free agency is a thing. You have so many players in many different sports that go out and ring chase. You know, they chase the title. It's like they could be a long-standing NBA player who has spent most of their career being incredible, but just not really being on great teams, and they are more than willing to sign up to go play on the super team, you know, to try to wrap things up and finally get that title that they haven't gotten. And you just look at the Brooklyn Nets in the NBA right now. But this of course goes back even. I mean, there's Charles Barkley is one of the best basketball players to have never won a title. And even he did a little bit of ring chasing at the end of his career. It really was more so his team thought that he could be the one that, like, the addition that pushed them over the edge, less so that he was like, I need a championship. Because he was very open, but he was very open, and the reason I bring him up is he was very open in saying, he's like, people are going to try to say that mine or Patrick Ewing's careers didn't amount to much because we didn't win a title. Let me reassure you, we're doing just fine.
Yeah.
You know? And there's, it used to be where, like, yeah, you may not always win a title, but like there was something to be said about being incredible at what you were doing, and that was like enough for people to say, yes, like, you are my favorite player to watch. Oh, this is my favorite team to watch. I really enjoy, what's going on here. And it wasn't just that, like, oh, well, yeah, well, how many rings does he have? How many titles has he won? Stuff like that. And that's been, I think, one of the worst ways that you can gauge how good a player is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is the primary way of gauging how good, like, an actual team is. And that's where, like, the caveat is drawn. So, like, you can't look at the individual players on Liverpool and feel like any of them are failures if they finish their Liverpool careers having only won the Premier League title in the fastest, faster than anyone else has ever won it. But at the same time, that's what makes it frustrating. Exactly what you're saying. We sit there and we're like, this team is amazing. Mohamed Salah scores goals that I haven't seen an individual score since, what was almost a decade ago now with Luis Suarez and his insanity, his insane final season and all. It's just, it's crazy to watch, and it brings so much joy to watch just one of the absolute best players playing at their absolute best. But then there is that thing about how it's a shame that this incredible team, probably from a historical standpoint, is going to be a little bit overlooked just because City's doing what City was doing. And I hope that people can have perspective. And I think we will. I think it is one of those things where a few years from now, maybe not even a few, just like 1 or 2 years from now, we could look back on this season and go, yes, what a season. That was incredible. The team was so good to watch. And we have that perspective once kind of the harshness of the current reality wears off just a little bit more. But because I think that's one of those things that as fans, it's what makes us fans, being able to remember those really good teams regardless of how they finished.
Yeah.
And cherish those really good teams regardless of how they finished. But also part of being a fan is that you want them to win everything. You have to want them to win everything. And that's why this hurts so much this whole year as it's going.
Yeah, and I think this team probably overall, even not just from Liverpool fans, like Liverpool fans will definitely look back on this team as being like one of their favorite ever. Even the older fans that were around and able to go watch the great teams of the 80s or the cup winning teams in the early 2000s, that kind of stuff, they'll still look back on this team and be like, there was something special about it. But yeah, I kind of picture this team, and I don't want to sound like I'm giving up on our ability to win stuff, because I do think this team will win a lot in the near future. But you look at the way a lot of people look back on like the Juventus team of the mid to late 90s that were incredible, and they bought all these stars, and they had Del Piero coming through, they had Vialli, they had Ravanelli, they had all these just incredible names, and they were just such a Hollywood team. I know that's usually Bayern's moniker, but they were such a Hollywood team and had all the big names, but really only had like that one Champions League win in 96, I think it was, that to their name. And there's a lot of people that look back are like, it's kind of crazy that team didn't win more. But it's not about like that team sucked because they didn't win more. It was about that team was incredible. That team was fun. Looking back on all the the memories and all those players, and like, wow, they were great. That player was great. They scored this goal. This team scored this goal. Do you remember that game where they beat this team? Like, that's how they remember. That's how most people remember that Juventus team. And I kind of feel like they will remember this Liverpool team for the past era, similarly to that, without the later allegations of match fixing and doping.
I mean, that we know of.
Hopefully, yeah, hopefully.
We've seen Mo with his shirt off. It doesn't seem natural, It just doesn't. No, absolutely. I think that's exactly what it is. We will, and this team, the fact that they do have the league championship and a recent Champions League, title as well, like that helps to like ease the pain a little bit. You want them to get more because it would be really fun to say like we are a dynasty, not just in we're consistently really, really good, but also we consistently are grabbing silverware. And that's why I think you're right. Like we could win another trophy in some, tournament or whatever this year. We absolutely could. And it would continue to help validate, this team's greatness in the eyes of history. And we're not downplaying that at all, I hope, by kind of voicing some of the frustration involved in the fact that, the season is effectively done by Christmas. That's what is annoying is like the Premier League season is kind of just wrapped up. And that's dumb. You shouldn't be at the halfway point and already have something completely wrapped up. You just shouldn't. And so whatever. I guess it means, hey, great, we can really focus on a good finish, making sure we're top 4, earning some extra cash that we won't, spend on anybody that way, and really focus on, the making sure that we get all of our next fixtures postponed for a while. That's really what the focus is.
Yeah, and we can turn our attention to making sure that everyone constantly says, like, this title for City should have an asterisk. There were postponements. There was another wave of COVID. Like, we have to make sure that there's an asterisk on this. It's only fair to make sure that every team gets that treatment. So
yes,
everybody join together. Let's start a change.org petition or whatever. Let's get that asterisk put on there.
Yep, I'm in. Absolutely. 100% in. Yeah, I think that it'll be... this is one of those cases in which the frustration comes in it's the tyranny of the imminent. Stuff that's immediately in front of us is incredibly frustrating. The big picture stuff of this team, like this season and the last few seasons, everything that the individual accomplishments of Jurgen and Mo and Sadio bouncing back from what was his worst season to he has some matches here and there in which it's he completely disappears, but then he has moments in which it's like, yes, this is why he's here, this is why he's playing on time, this is why, stuff like that. The big picture stuff will continue. We'll take back over when we have the moment to step back and get the perspective, or gather the perspective. As of right now, though, it's just kind of the tyranny of the imminent kind of makes it suck.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And I mean, it is kind of one of the reasons that I think I'd mentioned it before on one of the few episodes we did before this, that I was all in on us going for the League Cup. Like, I want us to win that trophy. I want us to get or continue that habit of winning stuff and getting silverware and keep that hunger strong and not give up when maybe the league's gone and put all our hopes in 7 matches to potentially win a Champions League, which I back us in all those 7 matches, but you just never know. So, like, I would love for us to win that, and I'm glad it was postponed so that we were not playing with children, because our youth team was also sick and injured. And I mean, people will cite the time where we played Villa's U18s in the FA Cup and like, oh, we should have done that. Like, that was a terrible idea. That should never have happened. That's like you see them given argument for penalties and stuff in the Premier League. Like, you see them given because the people that are making the calls are morons.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. It doesn't mean just because it happened before.
Right. Like, in what other area of life do we just be like, well, this thing happened, that means it must have been the right thing.
It's fine, yeah.
I'm like, no, we don't do the building caught fire. Well, I guess it just needed to burn down. Yeah. No, you built it wrong, and there was a fire hazard there, and you didn't take care of that. There's other bad reasons here,
Yeah, like, oh, that store just got robbed. Well, a store's been robbed before, so it's probably fine.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. got to put an asterisk next to that robbery. You know, it doesn't really count. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's and what also would be cool about like the League Cup is that that's the one thing that we haven't won yet.
Yeah.
You know, with this whole team, we've competed, and I remember you, me, and Zach getting together like what at like your grandparents' house or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day to watch that one Cup final that we lost to City. But like outside of that, you know, we've won Champions League, we've won the Premiership itself. Yeah, we haven't won the League Cup. That'd be nice. That would be to be like, yeah, we've won at least one of all of these things over the past couple of years. That is just a flat out dynasty.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's great. It's great, or it would be great to win that. So let's focus a little bit, break away from maybe the big picture talk for a second, and talk about the last couple of matches that have occurred. Those in particular being ones that, you know, for all intents and purposes, played us out of title contention and for this year in the Premier League itself. And, I mean, even really played Chelsea out of title contention.
Yeah.
Which I think is really funny because going into that match, everyone was like, whoever like loses this is pretty much out. So both teams were like, all right, hold
Let's both
here.
lose.
And here we go. Let's both knock ourselves out. But the last couple of matches in particular, being the draw to Chelsea, the loss to Leicester, and we can't forget also that way back in the day, all the way back on what day was that Tottenham match? I'm trying to find
I think
the
that
date.
was 2012.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It was almost a full decade ago. No, December 19th. So, gosh, that feels like so much longer ago than it was. But that was a draw as well to Tottenham. So the most recent Premier League form for us is a draw, loss, and a draw. Alex, looking at that, you know, specifically, what are some of the factors we can point to? I mean, obviously, players missing due to, you know, COVID protocols and things like that, you know, notwithstanding. But what about like on the pitch? What are some of those factors that we can point to as to why it is that the form is not great in the league right now?
I mean, it kind of comes back to what we touched on at the beginning about not adding to the squad is player absences. It's absolutely crushed us. Not only are we missing key players, not only are we missing the ones that we wanted to bring in that give us the factors that we're missing, which we'll touch on in a second, like control. Like we had such little control of the match, especially against Chelsea after we went out, but in the Leicester match as well. But it means that the players that are fit are playing way more than they should, and they're getting hurt. They're running out of steam, and it's just kind of all adding up, and we're seeing the performances that we've been seeing. So like we just don't have the ability to rotate, and we're kind of forced to play with mixes of players, especially in the midfield, which has been our topic of the season, where the balance isn't right, where the players they don't mesh, they don't really go well together, they don't complement each other, they don't have that kind of understanding that you see from our midfield when we're dominating teams, when we're putting 5 past teams, when Mo is scoring and scoring and scoring in just one game, not just from game to game. And it got to the point where against Chelsea, we just didn't even play. We didn't play to them. We just skipped them. They were like, this isn't working, so we'll just cut out the middleman and go straight to the front three. And that led to us being like super stretched and the front three being isolated. It ended up being a lot of 3v4, and that was only ever going to end one way for us once the players started getting leggy. And I think I saw someone put it like there was the 1-1 draw we had with City in the first half of last year where it was incredible for the first 20 minutes and then everyone got tired and it was terrible. That is what happened for this match, except Chelsea didn't really get tired and we had to ride our luck a little bit. So that's really all that it is. It's that we're out of players again, and we knew this was going to be an issue, and we didn't address it when we could, and now we're paying the price for it.
I think that was also one of those important things, like you just mentioned in the Chelsea match, in particular. You know, basically just skipping the midfield. I mean, that's exactly why we had 2 great goals to open things up. You know, Sadio basically playing bully ball, you know, which was awesome to see. And then Mo just working the defense. Just making Marcus Alonso look like he didn't even matter. Just get over there, you're done, and then all that. But immediately, that's why 2 quick goals could be given up like that. When the team is so stretched out like it is, it's one of the reasons why we don't play that route one football. It's just not how we do it, because the high press. You've got to be able to work as a unit, and when one of the units of your squad basically doesn't exist, it breaks things apart. So yeah, I think that's a great point that you just made of just our inability to trust them in the midfield is what put the entirety of the defense in such terrible positions, all the time. Like, I think I joked with y'all that during that match, obviously we didn't have like Allison in goal, and I was like, we could have had Quavine and Allison in goal at the exact same time, and it wouldn't have stopped those shots. Like, it was the combination of our defense just not having the placement, the help to be in the right place, and honestly, Chelsea having 2 incredible shots, perfectly placed shots as well, but it just sucked.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the performance and stuff, and you do kind of forget that it took, obviously a system breakdown for the second goal, but it took an incredible shot, like a once in a lifetime hit to make that draw. And I mean, the way the match was unfolding, you couldn't really be faulted for saying they probably would have tied us anyway. Because we just gave them so many chances, but it did take something incredible to at least start the comeback path. But I mean, another testament to the lack of a player availability leading to fatigue. And I know he's divisive when it comes to when you want to point out criticism, but it's not something we've done very often because you just haven't had to. But the goal that Leicester scored and the second goal that Chelsea scored were almost identical, and you can kind of trace it back to, there were breakdowns of shape, but Jordan Henderson just not tracking his man. And that rarely ever happens, but you get injuries, you get minutes on top of minutes, you get him coming back from COVID, and he just can't keep up. He looks out of it. He clearly needs a break, and he's not going to be able to get that, especially with us now losing 3 more people. But that's just what happened twice. Like, Trent is pushing up because that's what Trent does, and Konate is stepping out. I think it was Matip that stepped out on Leicester, and that run just ran right through. And how that's been saved before is that Henderson or whoever else is playing in that spot tracks that run and keeps them in check. But no one could keep up that time, and that's why the goals looked almost identical.
It's, we've talked a lot about this midfield construction in the way that we play. In the gegenpress and in just the overall how they complement the defensive 4 as well. The midfield thrives when they have certain players playing certain roles. And as much as we love Jordan Henderson, we know that being a defensive mid is not his natural skill set. And even when he was a little bit younger and I guess the plantar fasciitis has kind of been a thing for years now, so that doesn't really, I can't say before that because it definitely was after all that. But even when a few years ago when we really tried to put him in that sort of role, and we saw it wasn't working, and we needed Fabinho, all that. We know that these midfield players, we have to have certain roles for them, much more so than we do with the other positions. In the entire lineup. We can swap one of the wingers out for a different style and role of winger, and it still typically works.
Yeah.
We can lose Robbo and put in Tsimikas, and there's similar in a lot of ways, very high energy and all that, but they're different players, and they end up playing that role differently, but both of them fit well with what's going on. It's when we have to shuffle the midfield around so much, or when we have a very fatigued midfield, where those really, we see that falling apart more, because those are the positions where we have to have a little bit more set role to play for each player that's out there. So when we have to deal with fatigue because we don't have enough depth, when we have to deal with all that, it shows quite a bit. It really does. And if I can real quick, I want to add this. Just pulling up the fixture list of the past couple of months. Beginning of November started with a Wednesday match right after a Saturday match at the end of October, right? Mm-hmm. Then a Sunday match. Then there was one whole week. And we came back, and just having one whole week is when we went from 3-2 against West Ham to 4-0 against Arsenal, having one whole week. That was it, just 1 week. But then immediately from there, November 20th, Saturday match. November 24th, Wednesday match. Then the 27th, Saturday match. Then December 1st, Wednesday. December 4th, Saturday. December 7th, Tuesday. December 11th, Saturday. December 16th, Thursday. December 19th, Sunday. December 22nd, Wednesday. December 28th, Tuesday, almost a week. And then the beginning of January, a Sunday. That's in the course of 2 months. We just played essentially 3.5 months worth of matches if things were a little bit more spread out, if there was less congestion. That's an issue. Yeah. That has to be an issue. There has to be some way to handle all of that a little bit better, because that is brutal to have to deal with. Going all the way back, not even just November, going all the way back to, October is when some of this stuff really started up, where there was match against United on Sunday the 24th, and then immediately a Carabao Cup match against Preston North End on Wednesday the 27th, and then, us against Brighton on Saturday the 30th. And we don't have depth. We're having to play starting 11, first 11, top 11 players in Carabao matches that they should never be in.
Yeah.
And so this is just what we're having to deal with. Yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, and it's the third season of that, essentially. And it's taking its toll on so many. And, there's going to be burnout, not just from actual physical burnout, but you saw Davy Proper retire this week, just saying I'm sick of it. I don't enjoy this anymore. This is awful. I hate this. It's so much bearing down on me all the time, and I just can't even think anymore. And it would not be surprising if he's not the last person to have that happen, especially with all of the things that have gone on the past few years with the pandemic and the way that the sport has returned. It's going to reach a breaking point. And what definitely doesn't help with that is having a 15-person squad to put all of that weight onto those key people. And then anytime we get anyone else, some idiot on some other team breaks his leg.
Yep. I know, and we've talked about, obviously, when you actually look at the team financials and the FSG financials, no, we do not have an unlimited amount of money like City does. That doesn't mean that we have to function in such a completely different way. We can find ways to bring in halfway decent backups just to have cover. We're not following the City technique of buying every world breaker that you can find, and it just kind of working out for you. We're not following the United technique of buying every world breaker you can find and it not working out for you. We don't have to do that. We just have to be able to, go and grab another Diogo Jota at a surprise signing, but who's been amazing. Go grab another Costas who's been. Do that just a little more often. Those are the purchases that you can make. You can make the. And I know we have a specific type of player that we go after for each possession. I know we're very picky in that because they have to fit the system well. The transfers that we've made in recent years have been great. They just have. But we just have to make a couple more every year to freshen things up. You just have to. And again, you don't have to drop 100 million euro on one person. You can find the guy that gives enough cover you know, for a more modest price, and there will be a way to make up that money. There has to be. But if you want to actually be committed to making sure you survive Christmas,
Yeah.
you got to do more for that, for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even just we just need like 5 more crosses, like just for various positions. Like, Jota to Crosses is the window that you can hit. And we did the loan to buy thing last year. Maybe it wasn't with the right people, but that's still an option. It doesn't have to be like that's the only deal just for that time. Like, we can do that. And it's just kind of frustrating. It's like one of those situations because every time that we as a fan base are like, oh, the club doesn't have any money to buy any players, we get hit with like the club values and stuff. Like, no, that's not like, yes, the club is worth a lot, but the people who have money are essentially that our parents have the money, and the parents aren't giving us an allowance, and we want an allowance. And just because there's a potential for an allowance does not mean that we have that allowance. So we don't have that money to spend until our parents say, here's some money, go buy something. And our parents' policy is you make your own money and you can spend whatever you make. Yep. And that's where we're stuck at right now. And in the world that we discussed earlier, where there's a team that's not doing that their parents are giving them all the money in the world to spend on players, like, it's just not possible to compete.
No.
That model is great and can probably and should and would be fantastic to win a bunch of Champions Leagues. But for a league and a Champions League, it takes a little bit of change because just the way that things the way things are being done, it has been changed so much by that type of injection of cash.
Yeah. And it also goes back to like the league really needs to address fixture congestion as well. Like there has to be some changes made there as well, because I can't imagine that we are the only team that is dealing with this type of crap, year in and year out.
Every manager in the league complained about it. Even Pep complained about it.
Right.
Every manager is saying this isn't good for players. This isn't good for my team. This sucks. I hate this. We can't even train. Like, all we're doing is recovering and hoping that no people don't get sick. And it's no one wants to listen. And it's going to lead to a lot more injuries and stuff like that. And it's frustrating. And then again, going back to the other point, like, if we bring on the equivalent of someone like Crosses level, but in midfield, we hold on, we potentially play a lot better, we potentially get more points out of the Chelsea match, we potentially don't drop points against Leicester. It's one of those things. Yep. It's a very easy solution, and we face it every season, and at some point we've got to do something about it.
You would think. Yeah. You would think. You did mention, and I wanted to kind of highlight this a little bit for anyone who is not super familiar with Davy Proper. But he did, at the ripe old age of 30, retire officially this week. Here's a quick stat for you. Davy Proper created 326 chances in the Eredivisie in the Netherlands since they started recording this data in about 10 years ago. 2010 to 2011 is when they started recording the data of chances created. Only 10 players in the entire league created more since 2010 than he did in that league. 326 chances. So a good player. Went to Brighton. I know you were super high on him before he arrived in England. And he got there, but his he was quoted as saying, "I made the final decision to call time on my playing career before Christmas, and it feels like a relief. That's why I know I've made the right choice. When I was abroad, outside of his homeland of the Netherlands, I gradually lost the love for the game. It was difficult for me to observe the discipline needed to perform at my best and have my life ruled by a hectic football schedule. And the coronavirus crisis and the lack of visits from relatives and friends haven't done me any good either." So he ended up going back home, but it still just wasn't quite the same. He kind of lost it by then. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of homesickness that played into some of this, which is genuinely something that can really happen when you just feel so isolated. But there's so much of this also that we shouldn't be in a situation where someone who's only 30 years old has completely lost the love of the game due to a hectic football schedule that is ruling his life, and just kind of the toll of that has taken, where he just doesn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that shouldn't be happening, and that's one of those things that we're starting to, that we're seeing happen. We're seeing things happen like this, and yeah, there's extra circumstances like being away from family and your homeland during a pandemic and that sort of thing, but that's not his first thing that he mentions. He mentions right off the bat that he started to lose the love of the game well before then. And I think I feel like there could be more situations like this coming out. We've had a lot of situations over the years where it's like a player doesn't live up to potential or something. I think we're going to see more situations like this where a player finally just openly says they're not living up to potential because this, this just sucks for them.
Yeah.
And they don't want to deal with it. And I think we're going to see more of that happen. And I just wonder how that's going to shape the league, not just in England, but around the world, moving forward and all that,
Yeah. And to add to the stat that you mentioned, like he's still number 11 on chances created in the Eredivisie, and that was with him being away from the league for several years.
Yep.
Which again is still very impressive. And also, like when he talks about the discipline that it takes, it's not like he was one of those players that you see pictured at nightclubs all the time. Like he was, by all accounts, a very consummate professional, and even then, it was just way too much. And so, yeah, it's just that burnout, especially with the way that the seasons are being forced to unfold now. And I mean, always having the busy December, January period.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's kind of a nasty situation in general. It's accentuated by the ongoing pandemic for sure, but it's just kind of nasty. And that's what makes me kind of wonder if we're going to see a few more people be willing to just flat out say, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing great because I'm miserable right now. Do genuinely wonder that.
Yeah, but it'll all be fixed when we have a World Cup every 2 years.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what we need. That is the one thing that will 100% totally solve all the problems. What a great friggin' idea. It's almost as if the people that ultimately make decisions are the people that also ultimately make the most profits off of those decisions. Huh. It's the weirdest thing. Okay. All right. Let's focus on some upcoming matches now, Alex, to start wrapping things up here. Now that we have pontificated on all of the major world events in the sport that we needed to talk about. Obviously, the match congestion does not let up anytime soon, as there is still scheduled to be. We'll see what happens, I suppose, with the January 9th FA Cup match against Old Shrewstown. Is that what we? Yeah, I think that's what we called them before.
Yeah, I think we declined to pronounce the town. I think we just said that team.
Yeah, we just decided not to eventually. So we'll see by that. I don't know if I've heard if we're trying to get that one changed as well, or if we just kind of assume.
So. Yeah, kind of depending on how many people come back, how the testing goes.
But that is on the docket, as well as the rescheduled Carabao Cup matchup against Arsenal on the 13th is what it says on here. Then another league match against Brentford immediately after on Sunday, the 16th. Then Thursday, the 20th, is the second Arsenal matchup in the Carabao Cup. And then the 23rd, Sunday, is Crystal Palace. Screw them. In the Premier League. So a potential of 5 more January matches.
Awesome.
Just love it. Gotta love it. What do we have to do in your eyes to kind of survive this mess?
Get some more postponements. That's pretty much it. We're out of players. Even if we have the requisite number of players fit, then that fit, I mean, like not infected. I mean,
Yes,
like
yeah.
not even, because we're not going to get all these people back from injury before then, because they'll just get injured again trying to come back from injury, because that's what
I
we
don't
do.
know, dude. If we postpone things enough, Harvey Elliott might come on back.
Yeah. Let's have all our matches, postpone them all till May, and just have a game a day for the entire month of May. But I
It'd
mean,
be easy.
that's I don't really know what else to, like, just hope for the best.
Yeah.
We don't really, we're missing Salah, Mane, and Naby. And I mean, we were probably going to be missing Naby anyway because he would have been hurt, but we're missing Salah and Mane, and that's going to suck. And Origi and Minamino are injured. And Jota is probably exhausted. Bobby should hopefully get over COVID soon, but you never know. And then Ox has just not really worked in the front three when he's played up there. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough. And it's sad that we'll be without those players, but again, can't really fault them for wanting to go represent their country in their equivalent of the Euros. Like AFCON is huge, so I get it, but it's a shame for us, especially when we know we're not going to do anything to fill the gap other than recall Leighton Clarkson from Blackburn.
Yeah,
and then send Tyler Morton there. I'm telling you, he's going there.
Save the season right there. That move, absolutely. No, you're right. It's going to be kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say bleak looking at it because that's the wrong term for it. But it's definitely not going to be. It's not going to ease the frustrations. It's not going to ease the concerns that we've had so far. It's just going to be more of the same for the next month at least. February kind of looking kind right now. As of right now, there's only 4 matches scheduled, but we keep progressing in these League Cups like we want to. This is the year in which I think we really actually kind of do want to keep going in the League Cups. It's just going to add to the congestion. So I don't know. It's just weird to. I know the January window isn't really super busy most of the time anyway, but I mean, it's still. Wasn't Van Dijk a January signing?
He was.
Yeah. We still have the capability. It's just a matter of whether or not we.
Coutinho was a January signing. Sturridge was a January signing.
Were they? Wow.
Yeah, like we could theoretically do something, but I don't think we will.
That does give me a little bit more hope, though. If we feel like it's a dire enough situation. That's the problem. Is I just don't know if right now, because this is a good and entertaining and successful team, if ownership sees it as a dire situation to address these issues.
Yeah,
we just need to be a lot louder on the podcast. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, I think this is our wake up call to record more.
Yes, that's it. That's the podcast New Year's resolution, is to get back onto a regular schedule. Well, let's say, okay, Alex, instead of trying to give scoreline predictions necessarily for any upcoming matches, let's focus still on big picture. You're looking at the rest of January. How do you see us doing in the matches that are scheduled here?
I see us probably beating Town, and then
Old Shrew Town, baby.
Yeah. And then probably, I don't know. I'm feeling a bunch of draws in the league. I don't feel that confident. I feel like the fatigue is going to catch up. I feel like we're going to see a lot of good stuff from Tyler Morton. That's probably my big call out. Like, I know we use him as kind of a poster child for the weird situation we're in, but he's done well when he's played.
Yeah.
Like, he's clearly a very good player. It's great to see Curtis back. I think that should help give us a little bit of dynamism in the midfield until something terrible befalls him again. Like, he's just had the unluckiest season. I don't understand what happened to his aura or something. He might need like a crystal cleanse, but geez, like just the unfortunate series of events. Like he pulled something, then he made his return, then he got concussed because he got hit sticked, then he came back, then he got a broken face in training, and then he came back and was on the bench, and then he got COVID, and then he came back and got injured, and then he got COVID again. Like, this poor guy. Like, I don't know. This was supposed to be his year, and it just like didn't work for him. So that'll be nice. I mean, the real test will be against Arsenal if and when we play those matches, because they're all right now, and they will play our full strength squad, and we will play our full strength squad in the sense that we will play the best players we have available.
Yep.
So that'll be tough, but I don't know. It'll be nice to get revenge against Brentford, hopefully. But yeah, I'm not really expecting too much. I want us to win all of them, obviously, but I don't want to get my hopes up because we're in such a prickly situation right now.
Yeah. Nah, you're absolutely right. It's Arsenal is going to be full strength, and Arsenal wants to win something. You know, they know that they have to, come in and actually have an actual level of success this season, because it's been so long of them just kind of mired in mediocrity that there's going to be like a full-blown revolt in the fan base.
Yeah.
I think what is some consolation for us are the fact that Palace and Brentford are underwhelming teams. We caught Brentford early when freshly promoted teams tend to do well, and they've kind of tapered off now. 6 wins, 5 draws, 8 losses, all in all. Palace is currently sitting right above them on the table, but with only 5 wins. Palace is just draw city. So yeah, I could definitely see it. Another draw in that result for sure. Yeah, I think you're right. It's just it's fortunate for us that we get a break from having to play against Chelsea and Leicester in the middle of fixture congestion. We get to actually play against some teams that we should be that on the right day we could sleepwalk through and win those matches. Yeah. But there's still so much to deal with, and in between all of that is this Arsenal matchup in the Carabao that that we're gonna have to play full strength in just because they're the only players that are available. So yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess, and so I agree 100% with your assessment in that this seems like it's going to be a lot of draws.
Yeah.
Especially those league matches could be. But this is also, if nothing else, I feel like this is where we could walk away with at least one victory against either Brentford or Palace pretty easy. I don't see us necessarily losing those, especially not losing a second one to Brentford. It just does not compute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, get revenge if we can. And we'll see from there. Also, I'll try to pull up the Premier League table just to see where everyone was standing. And you mentioned Coutinho was a January transfer. Apparently, Coutinho could be a January transfer again. That's every single article on this website is about where he might end up. And it's like, is Aston Villa going to be his saving grace? Could he go to this place? 5 different clubs have interest in him. It's like, okay, yeah, all right. Jeez.
He's going to sign for all of them.
Yep, he is. It's going to be incredible to see. Let's see. Where they're linking him with Villa. One of the clubs interested in signing. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Villa and Newcastle are the 2 that I've seen most strong.
Everton is listed here. Another source revealed that Everton are one of the clubs who have talks over a deal for Coutinho. However, there is internal debate at Goodison, with owner Farhad Moshiri keen on doing a deal for Coutinho, while Rafa Benitez is not yet on board. That's what this rumor is. So it's what's most interesting about this is that he is one of those players that you forget is only 29.
Yeah.
Like in my head, he is already like 34 years old.
Yeah. It's Milner's age.
Yeah, but he's only 20. It's pretty crazy. But anyway, that's all that. Where do you think he ends up, Alex?
I'm going to say Vancouver Whitecaps.
I love it for him. I think that's the right choice too. I think it's going to be great. What's really funny is this little blurb here. It says It said like 5 clubs are in talks, and it mentions 2. It mentions Villa and Everton, and that's it.
That's 5. Yeah.
Why do I even act surprised that ESPN soccer coverage continues to be absolute crap?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. All right, well, we're going to wrap things up then on this episode of You'll Never Talk Alone. And we thank you so much for joining us here early January. I hope everyone is starting the new year off right. Hopefully everyone is starting the new year off by avoiding any disappointing 2-2 draws against Chelsea.
Yeah.
Hope that you avoid whatever your personal, like the personal 2-2 draw is in your life. I hope you've avoided it so far this year, and I hope you continue to avoid it this year.
Yeah, avoid it like we avoided passing to our midfield. At Stamford Bridge.
Well played. Great callback, Alex. Great callback. All right. That is Alex Lebel. Alex, thank you very much, sir.
Glad to be here. Looking forward to the next 2 or 5 episodes.
Did you just say Google ad to be here?
Yeah, just getting that product placement in.
You.
I think I tried to say good to be here, and then I said glad to be here. I ended up saying Google Ads.
Google Ads. Google Ads sent me here. And he actually was not supposed to be on the podcast tonight. He saw a targeted ad, he clicked on it, and it sent him here to the recording session. So thank you.
You can get certified right on Google.
Oh, man. No, thank you so much. Appreciate it, dude. And thank you guys for listening to this episode of You'll Never Talk Alone. I am your friend, Joseph Craven, and we will catch you next time here on YNTA. Bark, 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 bark. Bark, 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 bark. Oh, cool. We got 2 spam comments.
Nice. Are they links to porn?
They're not. They're